No, just what I wanted to talk about. I guess we touched on it. The deceit that's in this world, and so often we go through our tests and we go through our struggles and we go through difficulties and sometimes we wonder why. I mean, this world is all programmed for us to have a difficult time. And he's had 6,000 years of programming this world. And it's at a peak right now. It's at a razor edge right now. So I know Paul says, well, you know, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but flesh and blood is used against us. And we can't forget that. And Satan doesn't use people that we don't know. And so often we seem to go along like strangers in paradise, you know, and we don't get this fact. That Satan is using those who are close to us and can use them and influence them to some extent to come at us. And he has there's no holds barred. He doesn't care what he does. He wants to bring us down. He wants to bring us down. And this whole world, you know, when we look out there at it and we see what we're facing. I mean, just look at the news. You know, in your newspaper or your radio, TV, and you look at the news and it becomes overwhelming. It's just overwhelming. And we know it's at a peak, and this peak, it is peaking because something's going to happen here soon. It will. And I'm not forecasting any dates or times at all. But we have our senses, we understand the scriptures, we can see for ourselves what's happening here. It's all coming together into a peak, and that peak is rising up. And the peak itself, it's not, how do you stop this? It has to be brought to an end. We all look at this and say, well, no, it can't continue like this. We know it can't continue. This cannot be sustained. But how do you stop it? How do you stop this? What force is there, or what powers are out there that can stop this? The only force, the only power that we can see in this world is love. Love. That can stop it. But where does that love come from? The religions of the world are beginning to talk about love. They're joining together more and more. There's this unification of the Protestant churches, the Lutheran Church, and so on, back to the Vatican, back to its home, returning home. But that's not just stopping with the Christian churches. It's also affecting other churches. It's also affecting all churches, actually, that I'm aware of. There is this interest in coming together, because what we see in the world today cannot be stopped by power of arms or anything like that. It's a spiritual struggle. So it can only be fixed in spiritual ways, spiritual means, a spiritual force. And that spiritual force is going to come from the churches, of course. And hence you have love. And I'm afraid, I'm just sharing ideas with you right now, but I'm afraid of and we're talking about faith and belief and standing and all these different things. But what's coming against us is not going to be very favorable, I don't think, because I'm looking at this love that's coming into this world, and this talk that's starting to build about love. Love your brother, love your neighbor, love your this, love your that. And I think in truth we've experienced some of this in the Winnipeg Church just a little while ago. Love. But what kind of love? What kind of love? See, this is the love I'm talking about. The love that will say to you, if you believe and you are committed to this book, then you have no love. You have no love for your brother. How can you love your brother and condemn him for what he's doing? He's loving his best friend. It's love. What's wrong with that? That's, I believe, what's going to come against us over time. Variations on that theme. But I could see that kind of thing coming towards us. Now, I don't know if you share my thoughts or, yeah, but it's a very real fear. And I mean, we know that I mean, this has been, I mean, if we want to look back at 2,000 years ago when, I mean, the Romans persecuted the Christians. I guess the Christians or the Romans had different gods. And it was good politics too, I might add. And we look at Islam, excuse me, where the Muslims murdered everybody who would not submit to them. Islam grew at the edge of the sword, basically. We look back at the Crusades, when the Christian church went into the Middle East and killed everything that looked like a Muslim. But they all looked like Muslims. So they murdered Jews and Coptic Christians and what have you. They killed everybody. And then 500 years ago it was the Waldenses who suffered greatly at the hands of the Christian church. So I mean, this has been around all along, hasn't it? This has been here, but the face is changing, I think, and there's a more benevolent approach now that's more deceitful. And when I see somebody of a high-ranking member of one of those churches say about love and come together, and quite honestly, it frightens me. I'll be honest, it frightens me. But I mean, these are the things that are going to come at us, aren't they? So when we look, maybe turn to 2 Corinthians, if you would. 2 Corinthians and chapter 4. And we're well versed in this. Chapter 4, we read in verse 3. If I can find verse 3. And even if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing. The God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers, so that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. And this is the force that's there. And again, I mean, if we look back at Luke chapter 4, Luke chapter 4 and verse 5. And I mean, here we read, the devil led him up to a high place and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. All the kingdoms. Then, or that were ahead. Everything. And he said to him, I will give you all their authority and splendor. It has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want. If you worship me, it will all be yours. The power is here. The power has been given to him. And he's using that power. He's using the power against you and I, or anybody who is struggling to walk with Jesus Christ. And Ephesians chapter 6, if you would. Ephesians chapter 6 and have a new Bible. I was losing all the pages were coming out of my old one. So I figured I better smarten up and bring this one. And verse 12. And here Paul tells us, now I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that what has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel. As a result, it has become clear throughout the whole palace guard and to everyone else. Oh no, that's not what I want to say. It's the wrong. Now Ephesians, that sounds better. And verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood. We said that earlier. But against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And that is our struggle. Our struggle. He's talking to the church. He's talking to you and I. And that is our struggle. But many people look at religion and they don't buy into the God that they hear about. They don't believe and they can't accept a lot of what the churches teach because there are no answers. There are people who are searching for answers and not getting them. If they buy into what the churches are preaching, then in truth they have to look at this God and wonder about this God. He's questionable if you want to believe what they're putting out. And they'll say about all these different, God himself with the Israelites murdered many people, killed people. And it's kind of hard to accept sometimes when you look at this and you see that God is cleansing. But if you turn to Exodus 14 with me, Exodus chapter 14. If I never reach Exodus 14. And we'll pick up in verse 13 if you would. Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance of the Lord, or the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you'll never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." The Lord was going to fight. And the Lord did fight. And the Lord did destroy Egypt. The Lord broke down the most powerful country on the face of the earth. He destroyed it. He destroyed it economically and he destroyed it pretty well militarily. So the Lord did fight and he did destroy the Egyptian army in the sea. We're told that. It was the Lord who was fighting, not the Israelites. Until the Israelites didn't trust him, until they didn't trust him, they didn't trust him at all anywhere along the line, really. They didn't trust him. This is it's a physical example to us, really, isn't it, of a spiritual problem that we have. How do we let go? How do we give it up? How do we depend on God? When we're in trouble, yes, God will test us. As Jim says, God will test us. And he may not come across the first time or the second time or the third time or the fourth time. He may let you stew a little bit and see what your breaking point is. He's trying you. He's trying me. He wants to see where we are. He wants to see, because we will never have eternal life until God knows where we are. He won't create another being to go the way others went. The struggles that we're having today with those beings today. He won't do that again. He wants to know where we are. Will we stand? Will we? We have him as an example, and it's not easy. We have his example that he struggled on those last hours, because he knew what was going to happen. He knew. And still, he needed help. He needed God's help. He needed the Father's help. And the Father could help him because he was without sin. The Father's Spirit was in Jesus at all times. There was no separation because sin was not involved. When sin gets involved, when we get involved in sin, we're separated. We've got to know that God can't take part in anything like that. That's why Jesus said, you know, when they asked him about the sample prayer, the example of prayer, and he said to them, Our Father. Because if we're without sin at baptism and repentance, we can call God our Father and Jesus Christ our brother. But it's we are going to be tested again and again and again, and thank God for it, that he doesn't just say, okay, I'm out of here. Okay? I mean, I used to look back at James, and James said, consider it pure joy when you go through trials. And I used to think, well, hey, you've got a problem, James, because I do not see the joy. I don't see the joy. And many times I still don't see the joy. No, I know this is going on, and it's going on for us, and we should consider it joy. Because it's making us into something else. It's building us. It's continuing the process of creation in us. I believe that God is creating in Genesis 1:26-27. I come back to it again and again. And I don't know if you're sick listening to me say it, but we lose track along the way. And we have to think back to Genesis 1:26-27. Let us make man in our image and in our likeness. That's the whole deal. That's what God is doing. And we get caught up in all this nonsense and all these conspiracy theories and all this foolishness. The whole world is a conspiracy theory, and it's been that way since the beginning. It's not a theory, it's a conspiracy. And the conspirator, the one who's doing the damage, is coming at us at a peak right now. And he's doing lots of damage. And we Deuteronomy chapter 1, if you would. Deuteronomy chapter 1. Chapter 1 and verse 22, if you would. And this is Moses in verse 22. Then all of you came to me and said, let us send men ahead to spy out the land for us and bring back a report about the route we are to take and the towns we will come to. And the idea seemed good to me, and so I selected 12 of you, one man from each tribe. And they left and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and explored it. Taking with them some of the fruit of the land, they brought it down to us and reported, it is a good land that our Lord is giving to us. But you were unwilling to go up, and you rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. You rebelled because God was going to push them out. And the Israelites just wouldn't believe, wouldn't trust. They wouldn't trust. And you grumbled in your tents and said, the Lord hates us. So he brought us out of Egypt to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us. After all they had seen, Jim said. I mean, really? On that, I mean, I used to think years ago, if only I was in that day, and see all those things, and I would never do that, really? Oh boy, yes, absolutely. But I don't know, I think it's probably going on quite late now, but when we look back at what happened in that day of Egypt, because there's such lessons there for us, that God destroyed Egypt, but Thutmose III was a priest and he was a god. And he tried to destroy God's firstborn, first nation, Israel. I think Moses is going to rise up again, and he's going to try to destroy God's firstborn again. The priest and the God. And I think that's where we're heading. And I think it's coming very close. But God did it before. And God will do it again. But the lesson is there for us. Do we believe God? And we have to look back at Hebrews 11 and look at them. They didn't have a lot of what we have, a lot of the knowledge, the information we have today. But they lived in faith. They weren't always that great. Abraham made his mistakes. He went out, left his city, left his home, and he walked out into a wilderness. You and I did the same thing when God called us. We stepped out and we walked out into the wilderness. And we're here. Moses in Acts chapter 7, you don't have to turn there, but was mighty. And he believed, according to Stephen, that God was going to use him to take the Israelites out of Egypt. But it took 40 years for Moses to get to the stage where he was humble enough and was capable of doing it. 40 years. So we haven't struggled or being at the grinder for 40 years. Maybe some of us have. But it took that long with Moses, and if you look back, really, it took that long with Abraham as well. So there's hope for us. There's hope for us. Eh? But I believe that these are the things that are going to happen, but we really should, I guess, it's going a long time, unless you want me to carry on, in which case we'll take a break and continue. Oh boy. No, let's break, shall we? Yeah.